Today I want to talk again about my 70s Columbia Bromleigh bike. And believe it or not, this is connected to the kitchen sewing table and sewing machines. What I'm doing today, I have adjusted the brakes, I think, as well as I can with these brakes. I'm thinking about putting new brakes on the bike. I have looked at new bikes. I would be buying the same style, and there seems to be kind of a shortage of the lower end bikes, and most of them are running $400 to $500. So before I invest that kind of money in a new bike, I've been thinking overnight that I'd really be buying the same thing that I have here. And the only thing going against this bike is that it's from the 70s. It has some rust. It may need things like new brakes. If I put, I found out the brakes I was looking at were too short. If I put a good set of brakes on the back, it runs about $35. So what I'm doing is the same thing I do with the sewing machines. I'm seeing the value in an older American-made bike. Not only because this one was made in Massachusetts, where Columbia had a plant, but also just the fact that it's right here in front of me and I can fix it faster than I can. I picked out a bike, and the earliest they can ship it is June 1st. So we're still having a shortage on products from China. The other bike, the Mongoose Monster Saint, is actually from China. I didn't realize Mongoose is a Chinese company. So I already have one. I have two of them. So in my mind, it's better to work on these and fix them up a little bit than it is to buy a new one. Now, that's as long as they're safe. So that's why I'm still thinking about putting new brakes on this. But what I want to talk about today has to do with, I just picked up a Model 27 sewing machine, early 1900s. I haven't gotten it yet. But I bought it as kind of a project to work on, and it's got two very rusted slide plates. And on the 27s, similar to the early VS whites, sometimes those slide plates get stuck in place and they're hard to remove. Now, in the past, I've been able to get them loose with oil, but because of the amount of rust on the machine that isn't here yet, I'm testing something on the bikes. So this is called Evaporust Gel. It comes in a liquid and also a gel. And the liquid, I believe, is reusable. So, like for the sewing machine parts that you can take off a machine, you would put the liquid Evaporust in a little bucket, soak your parts, probably overnight. This package on the gel says 1 to 2 hours, but people have commented that it takes, generally it takes longer than that. And then you can reuse the liquid. This is a gel, however, that I bought so that I could also test it on the bikes. So right now, I want to just tell you how I'm applying it. I have a little paintbrush, and the worst part of this bike is the front wheel rim. And what you see, that white coating, is the Evaporust gel. Now, I had done one small section yesterday, and it didn't remove all the rust, but you could tell that the rust had changed. So first thing off the bat, if you have a lot of rust like this rim does, and you can see that right near the tire thing, that right around the, what do you call those? The stem, the air filler stem, it's really rusted, and that's what this part of the rim was. So this is a first coat on most of it and a second coat on one little piece. Now I'm doing it outside in the shade semi-shade. And because when I did it yesterday, not all of it comes off right away and easily. So I also have a toothbrush, an old toothbrush, and I'm going to have the hose out. And after you wait your 2 hours or longer, you then, if you need to, you either wipe it off with a damp cloth, or you can hose it off and then use like a toothbrush or something to remove all of the white. So the gel is perfect for this because on the vertical parts, I did do this area yesterday and it had more rust than it has today. But on any vertical parts, which there aren't a lot on here, the other bike has more rust on verticals. But with it being a gel, it'll cling to this instead of the liquid where you soak the parts from the sewing machine. So when the 27 gets here, I will be using Evaporust somehow on the sewing machine parts. Let me just get up again. But this is a test really, because this rim is about as rusted as those slide plates look. So we're testing Evaporust, and in the meantime, what it's going to do is rejuvenate this bike. Now this is a steel bike, similar to the newer Chinese bikes. Fairly heavy, so much fun to ride, a 3-speed. Really all you need to go around your neighborhood if you're not a trail rider or a commuter. And I think worth fixing up. Now here's another example of the level of rust we're talking about. This is a wooden chair that somebody had left out in their garden, and I grabbed it because it's actually going to be a chair for treadling. My treadles are up on dollies, so I need a taller chair. This is like a bar stool height. And I keep it, I throw it away, I keep it, I throw it away, because of the rust. This has a substantial amount of rust on it. Now, I live on Cape Cod, and I could zoom my camera to the right and show you how all the neighbors leave their bikes outside, and bikes become almost disposable because for some reason they just don't want to put them in their basement or something. I keep mine in the house. Even grills. The neighbors right next door to me have like 3 grills. I'm like a mile from the beach, and when you hit the bridge coming to the Cape, you smell the salt air. And basically garden tools, bikes, wagons. I'm very surprised my plant hangers aren't completely rusted. Everything rusts. And I mean, I've lived here for 50 years, and you can't own anything without having rust on it. So someone had left this out in their garden. You can see on the other side there, it looks like it used to be green, painted green. And they left it out in the rain, so all the rust is on the outside. But it does come off the chair, but in order to take it off the chair, I have to remove the whole chair top. And I'm not sure yet how they put this together. It might be like they took a bar stool and made it into a chair or something. So anyway, this, if I could get it off of there easily and had a big enough like galvanized tub, I could soak this whole thing in Evaporust. But because that is going to be more difficult maybe than the chair is worth, I would use the gel on a surface like this. And when you start to look at the applications you can use Evaporust for, especially if you live near the ocean like I do, literally, I mean, I have my father's tools, garden tools from like 60 years ago, 65 years ago, and they are all rusted. I could restore them. if I wanted to. So it's a good product. But even this dog tie, this is a new cable. That's what happens. That rust, and it happens like within a month at the most. So actually the bike is not as bad as it could be. And on my walk yesterday, I was up the street about a half a mile. One of the houses up there has about 20 bikes thrown in the backyard. And literally, I think what happens is they leave them out, they get rusted, people don't want to spend the time on them. And doesn't that sound just like sewing machines? I just now looked at another 27 that it doesn't have the shuttle, and it's missing one slide plate, and the seller marked it as parts only, not working, in other words, garbage. I mean, a slide plate is about $10, and a shuttle is about $10. $20, and a machine from the 1900s is working again. So it's a whole mindset living on the Cape. It's part of why I do things the way I do, why I fix up older things as opposed to buying new things. If I buy a $500 bike, if I buy a featherweight 221 sewing machine, I'm constantly worrying that it's going to rust or corrode. So it depends on where you live, it depends on your conditions, but it's part of why I'm more likely to fix something up or use an old item than I am to buy new. I love new stuff, but it doesn't last when you live in salt air. Now this is the Mongoose Saint, and I had put this bothered me a lot. This has a lot of rust on it. I did one quick coat yesterday with the Evaporust Gel, but you can see by quick coat I left it on there for about 3 hours and then started to brush it off, but knew I'd be doing more work on that. I also did the handlebars, and this is residue I didn't get off. I was saying this is residue that I didn't quite get off of there, but you can tell that where I put the Evaporust compared to where I didn't put it. And you can see a very good line right here where I did the top and not the bottom. So there is still some rust, and see, these are chrome, some kind of chrome plating. So there was one spot I did, well, this is not really rusted, but the chrome is gone. That's what you're going to end up with right there. So this, I also need to do the seat stem, and I just noticed something on the back axle, and that is really bad. And because my whole intention is to keep the bike safe, I'll be doing the back axle. I want to see if that's just the chrome that's bubbling off of there. Because, you know, rust will keep eating through whatever it's on and make it weaker. So, keeping with the bikes and the Evaporust, I'll do another quick video to show you the results off of the other bike, and then I'll probably do a completely separate video on the Model 27 sewing machine when that gets here. Okay, I'm at the rinsing off stage. I actually did do the back fender, which I think you can see there how white it turns. I'll show you the other example, this back fender, and there's the wheel rim that as it dries, it turns much whiter, much more opaque. And I also did just a little area on this chair. Now it does say in the container to put it on fairly thickly. Let's just rinse it off. Let's see what happens. So that doesn't, it's been on there 3 hours. And that doesn't look like it really touched it at all. Get my toothbrush out. Now, I don't know if it matters how long the rust has been on there, how many years, or how embedded it is. I bought the gel on Amazon, and it was there that the comments said that it usually takes longer than 1 to 2 hours. So that's obviously going to need another treatment. Let's go over to the chair. I can drag the hose with me. And I bet it hasn't even touched this. So this is why I think I just said I bought the product on Amazon, and it was there that the comments, people said that you had to give it more than 2 hours. So this is kind of what the rim looked like yesterday. And it's working, it's just not done. There's metal under there now, where there wasn't before. So you can see that you're going to need a lot of Evaporust gel when you have something very rusted like that. And let's see how the tire looks. This is why people just throw bikes in their backyard, because it's easier than taking the time to do this. The other option is to buy a new wheel, in this case on the bike, but finding a vintage wheel, I had looked at them before, it's about $100, which is more than I want to spend right now. It's my toothbrush. So that chair, this affects whether or not I'm going to keep that chair, whether I'm going to redo the chair. So this is working better on the rim. Valve stem. The word I couldn't think of earlier, valve stem. So this gives you an idea of what it's like to use the Evaporust gel. This is actually not bad. This is not, I'm not unhappy with this at all. What I'll do is brush most of this off, let it dry, and come back and do it again. Now the slide plates on the machine are about as bad as this. So that's going to take either some soaking in Evaporust Liquid or longer treatment with the gel. You couldn't even see metal in this area before. I think it'll be worth the time and effort. It's like tuning up your car. Now just to add here, this is why they tell you may need a soft brush. I had just rinsed this off. If I go over this with the toothbrush, more of that rust is coming off, which you can tell by the color of the water and mixture there. I'm thrilled with the rim. I'm thrilled with that. I'm going to do that again. I think all the rest of that rust is going to come off. And look at this. So if this bike is from 1970, It's around 51 years old, and that's just a guess. I think it's sometime in the 70s. And this is American craftsmanship. Not to knock other countries, but I'm happy. Evaporust Gel.